everyone. How are you? Welcome back. This is Just Like You, Everyday People, Amazing Stories, episode number 43. Can you believe it? We have been going strong for 43 episodes. I truly appreciate, as I say on every show, the support, the overwhelming support, the love, the positivity. And remember, if you have a story, and we know you do, I would love to have you on the show. If you have a friend, a family member, an audience member, anything that has a story, I would love to have them on the show as well. We are here every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, every Tuesday for a great story. This is Just Like You, Everyday People, Amazing Stories. Make sure you're checking out my YouTube. Make sure you're checking out my IGTV. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube, following on Insta, and making sure you're checking out the prior episodes. We would love to have you on the show. If you would like to be a guest on the show, please make sure you get in contact with me. If you know a guest for the show, please make sure you hook it up. Alrighty, so let me see if my guest is, let's see if they are ready. Rosie? Hello? Hopefully I did that right. Rosie? Let me try again. It says sent request, so I hope that they got it. Rosie? Hello?
Hey,
Oh, wait. Hi!
how are you doing?
How are you?
Good, thank you. I'm
I was
excited to
like
be here.
making sure that I did that correctly because Instagram has done so many updates and things that I'm like, am I pushing the right button?
Yeah, no, I just
How
had to
are
log
you?
off and log back on. Yeah, I'm
Oh,
doing great, thank you.
you did? You had to you had to log off, then log back on?
Yeah, I just hopped off the live video and then hopped back on.
Okay. How's your day going?
It's going okay. Honestly, it's been a little bit of a frustrating day at work, but I'm excited to be here and shake it off a little bit.
Shake it off. Yes, shake it off. Well, I just want to say I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate it. You didn't have to do this, and I appreciate it. So we'll get started with the story, but I do want to tell you that I appreciate your time and thank you so much for sharing your talent with us.
I'm
We
so
appreciate
excited to
it.
be here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
So tell us about you. Tell us your story. Tell us what got you here.
Sure, and I'll start by saying that I think I'm like in the middle or maybe even the beginning of my story, not
Okay,
super far into it.
no worries.
But so yeah, I'm the person behind La Mera Huera, which is my small business. And for those that don't speak Spanish, that's a little bit of a play on words. La Mera Mera is slang for like the real deal, the badass, the boss. And then La Güera is means like a light person. So my mom is Mexican, my dad is American, but obviously I came out super white. So I chose a name that kind of reflected both of those sides of me. Um, so yeah, I this is new for me. I grew up around art. My mom is a ceramic artist. So she had me basically as a baby in the studio with her. I always worked for her. And I got to see up close how hard it is to be a working artist. I think my mom probably works 80 hours a week every week. And she's like made a living, but it's been difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kind of counterintuitively, because I saw so much of it, I didn't think of it as a path for myself. Where I was just kind of in the thick of it, and it didn't occur to me that that was something to pursue because it was just something that was always there. Yeah, so I went in a completely different way, and I ended up becoming a material scientist, and I worked for companies in sustainable transportation. And that's still my 9 to 5, but about a year and a half ago, I was at a company that was really stressful. The job was good, but the environment was really stressful, and I'd say not an inclusive environment at all, or supportive or anything like that. And And so I ended up quitting my job with no plan. And I had saved up enough money to be able to take a few months off, and not do anything before I got a new job. And during that time, I started making art, and I started making art really like 8 hours a day, every day. And at that point, I realized that this was something I really liked to do, and it was something that I wasn't going to get tired of. Like, I think one of my concerns was, oh, I can't be an artist because it won't be fun to do the thing that I love to do anymore. It'll just feel like work.
Oh, okay.
And when I started actually treating it more like work, I realized that it was still something that I love to do, that it was still fulfilling, and that even more so, like, I got more ideas as I spent more time working. And so I started to think of that as a real possibility. So that's when I started La Mera Huera. I still have a full-time 9 to 5 job. I work at another company that's in sustainable public transportation. But my goal eventually is to do this full-time, do La Mera Huera full-time. But it's going to take a lot of work to get there.
Awesome. So I want to touch on 2 things that you said. One is you never thought you would be doing it because you were like, this is not what I think I'm going to be doing. I spent all my young years, watching my mom do it. I'm going to do something else. What was the pattern that, like you said, kind of said it's okay, right? That it's okay to do this? Because I'm sure you kind of struggled with it a little bit. Should I do it? Should I not do it? What was that thought that said, you know what? It's okay because this is something I love and it's okay to do it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, I feel like I was really brainwashed by being in the tech industry, and thinking like, oh, to be successful, like you have to have a high paying job, you have to like meet all of these milestones, you have to work so many hours a week. And I felt like those were the lies that were just, I kind of internalized them. And it was when I quit my job, it was before I quit my job, when I was becoming disillusioned with it, that I kind of felt like, no, those aren't actually the metrics of success I care about. And the things that make me happy are different from that. And maybe I should spend more time on the things that make me happy.
I love that you did it with no plan.
It was a little bit of an accident, but I'm glad that it happened that way.
I love that you did, you bet on yourself, right?
Yeah.
You took a leap of faith on yourself and you won. I mean, I think so many times we think we have to have this cookie cutter plan, right? We have to have a step A, step B, step C. And when you did it with no plan, I'm sure, now that we're on the other side of it, it worked, right? I'm sure at the moment you were like,
oh, okay. It was terrifying. Yeah.
Right. So, but I think it's cool that you share with viewers that you did that with no plan, and it turned out well. So, but what advice would you give someone like who's thinking, that, okay, I have this passion, I don't know if I should do it, I don't know if I want to do it, I grew up around it, and almost, fighting it to not do it, right? What advice might you have for someone who's kind of in your position that you were in?
Yeah, I think one of the lessons that I've learned is that you just have to sit down and do the work. And that's the only way to know that if you're going to like it and if it works for you. I think I used to kind of think like, oh, I'm not in a creative mood, like I'm not going to create today. And that's not how creativity works for me at all. I have to sit down, do the work, create the opportunity, and create the space for creativity to flow. And I would recommend that people do that. So just like sit down, start making things. And then if that process and like actually being dedicated and disciplined to it is something that resonates with you, then go for it, pursue it.
Yeah, I think doing the work is I guess more than half the battle, right?
Yeah.
Because lots of times you have these, again, you have, okay, I did this with no plan, here I am, but now you got to put in the work. And I think that's where some people get stuck, right? It's like, now what do I do, right? And what does that work look like? And I don't know that you had that answer either, but I think what you did is you just tried what was out there, right? You tried to do, different things. And it sounds like what you're telling us, it's kind of just built itself, right? I mean, you've built it clearly, but it's also, just by your, what's the word I'm looking, I don't want to say plan. I want to say by you're doing the work, because that's basically what you just said, you doing the work, that it's all came together. I want you to tell people, because if you guys that are listening or going to listen get a chance, I want you to go to, or no, not even if you get a chance, I want you to, so I'm gonna take that part out. Go to Rosie's Instagram and look at her work. Because Rosie, I want you to tell people the meaning behind some of that. When you were explaining it to me, I found that to be, it's not just, art, right? There's something in your heart that your art shares with people, and you taught me when you were explaining it to me.
I have a couple of pieces that I can talk about, kind of the meaning behind. But yeah, one of the ones I have here, this is my main art form, is called a retablo, which is tiny little boxes with skeletons doing things in them. Mm-hmm. So this one is a ballet folklorico dancer with the really classical Mexican skirt, and then I was just kind of experimenting with some shiny backgrounds, because
beautiful.
The part of my Mexican aesthetic is liking very gaudy, mm-hmm. lots of sequins, lots of shiny stuff.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you. But yeah, it comes from, my work is not traditional, but it draws on a tradition of traditional Mexican folk art, and using skeletons as a form of expression. There's like a history of line drawings and prints, and from Jose Guadalupe Posada was a really famous, he drew the La Catrina, the skeleton with the big hat, mm-hmm. that you've probably seen before. And then paper mache or cartoneria, that's been really used to kind of depict everyday life and just things that are happening every day in our lives. But as well, it's used to kind of offer political commentary or satire, and then also to commemorate big life events. So my work, I try to draw on that and put my own spin on it. So unfortunately, I don't have these pieces. Well, I guess fortunately, because they sold. But
yes,
yeah. But I had some pieces around the uprisings for racial justice last year, where I depicted some of the Black Lives Matter protests, and then I didn't feel like I could benefit from that financially, so all of the proceeds from that were donated to Black-led orgs. And then I also did some series around COVID life, and kind of feeling isolated, and had that depicted in my work. So I'm trying to really draw on a traditional art form to comment and reflect my own experiences and what I see in the world today.
Yeah, I think that, I wanted you to explain that, because when you explained it to me, I thought that is, an important part of what you do, and an important part of you. So I think it comes across. And like I said, if you get a chance, you guys, please make sure you're going to her Instagram, because, going to your Instagram, because I think it's just beautiful, 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 beautiful. So tell us, one thing I didn't send to you. What does your mom think?
My mom is super excited. I used to work for her a lot, just when I lived at home. I would do her, the stuff that she didn't want to do. And I kind of always joked with her that I was going to take over the business when she died. But now, I actually do want to take over the family business at some point. And I think that makes her really happy that that this thing that's so important to her is also important to me. And my work is very different from hers. She's also done some work with skeletons, but that's not her primary work at all. And so I think she's excited for the kind of work that I'm doing, that it's different from hers, but also draws on our time together.
Do you guys collaborate on anything?
We do. I mean, informally, like if I have an idea, I'll run it by
Informally?
her. And then if she'll often, because she works on a lot of different types of projects, and she'll call me and say like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this and this, and I'll
Ah,
say like, oh, but like maybe if you moved this over here, and like, so we'll do like big concepts, and we'll also do like some specifics. She's so detail oriented, and I love it because I can say like, this doesn't quite look right, and she'll be like, oh, well, that line is like 2 centimeters off or something like that.
that's awesome to have your mom in your corner, right?
Yeah.
I think that, especially when you're thinking about being creative, to have that uh, piece of her heart, in your corner and saying that's okay, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of young artists, and I don't know, but I would think that there are a lot of young artists who may not have that same support.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's been really, really helpful for me.
It's been, would you say?
Oh, really helpful for me.
Right. Yeah. What would you tell people? Here's another one. What would you tell people not to do?
um, don't judge the value of your work by how it's perceived by other people.
Ooh, I like
And
that one.
I think that has taken me a long time to kind of get behind. I used to, like, if I applied for a pop-up or to be featured in a store or something like that, if every time I got a rejection, I would take it really hard and like, oh,
Mm,
my work isn't good. And I've
mm.
shifted that from my work isn't good to my work is not for them. And just it's not a reflection of my work. It's my work is not for everybody. And I would say that anyone who creates anything, your work is for somebody. It's maybe just a matter of finding your audience.
I like that I'm gonna borrow that quote. My work is not for them. Instead of saying, negatively upon yourself, right? Oh, it's bad, or I'm bad, or it's not for them. And I think
Yeah,
to be okay with that is I don't know if you'd call it a skill, but it's definitely something you have to cultivate, right? Because I'm
for
sure
sure. Yeah.
cultivate, you know,
Yeah,
of
it's something
people.
I have to remind myself all the time.
Hmm.
It doesn't come naturally. It's very easy to just reflect on yourself and not understand that other people have their own reasons for not buying or not liking or whatever it is.
So tell us, you go to the shows like the art shows and things like that in Los Angeles. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, how do I say, being bold and putting yourself out there for people. How does that feel? How did that happen the first time? I know I'm asking you all sorts of questions that I did not text you at all.
That's
But
cool.
I do think the thing I like about what you do is you're young, you're super, super, super creative. Like, people that go to your Instagram are going to see how super, super, super creative you are. And I think that it takes a lot of, you know, boldness to put yourself out there like that as a young person, you know, uh, in LA, mind you. And, you know, I feel like you challenged a lot of, you pushed a lot of boundaries. So I like that. And, just tell us what it was like to kind of be bold and be able to push these boundaries, and how others might be able to do that.
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing I'll say is you can make the space for yourself. Like last year, I was feeling pretty down because it was getting to be like holiday pop-up time, and this was my first year doing things. I just hadn't planned ahead for things. So I didn't apply to anything, and I was like, oh man, I'm missing out on this opportunity. And then I was talking with a friend, and just realized like, wait, I can do this. Like, I don't have to wait to be in somebody else's pop-up. I can make a pop-up. So I got together a few other makers and artists that I know, including Tony, who you've had on your
Mm-hmm.
show, and how we got connected. And we were going to do an in-person pop-up because COVID was so bad in LA at the time. We ended up doing a virtual pop-up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just Googled like how to run an online pop-up and then tried to figure it out.
But I would have never Googled that in a million years. Like, I wouldn't even, I mean, I know that there's pop-ups, but I would have never thought to myself, well, let's do an online pop-up. You know, I would have never, I mean, people like Tony probably would have came up with that idea, or you, but not me. You know, I would have been like, oh no. And I think that again, that takes courage too, even though it was a group of you or different people. You know, I think those type of things take courage. The good thing I love about all artists is I feel like everyone in the art space that I've talked to has that, you know, that out of the box courage, you know, that's how you guys create, right? That's how you guys create. Tony, I don't know if you've seen some of the interviews with Tony, but she's created some pieces for me that, you know, they're beautiful, and your pieces are beautiful too. But I think that some people have that and some people don't. You know what I mean? Like, no, well, let me take that back. I'm going to take that back for a second, because I believe that everybody can be an artist. We just had this discussion last week about everybody can be an artist. I just think some people have some of that courage easier than others. But I think everybody can express themselves through art if you have the courage. But it takes courage, and some people have the courage, and some people are trying to cultivate the courage. So I think that, you know, it's very interesting to me always when I talk to artists, because I just admire what, you know, what all of you do. So anything more about your work that you want to tell us? Because I believe that, you know, again, it comes from your heart, it comes from your soul, it comes from your generations, it comes from your background, it comes from so many things. Anything else you want to add to, you know, about your work that you would like people to know?
Sure. I guess I kind of fall into two camps. One is the skeletons and skeleton art, and then the other is bird art. Like they're very different and very separate. But yeah,
Do you have something?
I do. Am I allowed to curse on this?
You are allowed to curse. Not on. We are not on. Yeah, do what you want.
Okay, sounds good. So I have a card that is of a goose lighting gasoline on fire, and then just on the inside it just says "fuck this shit." And I've always been a bird watcher, and I find animals hilarious, and then I also like anthropomorphizing them. So I have like kind of the more like Mexican traditional folk art side, and then the bird side, and then sometimes they go together. This is I don't know if you're familiar with papel picado. It's like the cutout tissue paper that you hang on garlands. So I've been experimenting with different forms of papel picado, and so I have this was just a recent one that I just made of like bird art, but with the cutout shapes and everything.
So that is cut out.
Yeah, I cut it out, and then I just glued it to a piece of cardstock just so it has.
Okay.
But the black part is all cut out.
See what I'm talking about, everybody? See what I'm talking about? This it's just so creative and so bold, and yet at the same time, I think, like I said, it's so heartfelt. You know, whenever I think that when you think about getting art for yourself, like when I think about getting art, I now see it in a different way. Like I could say, oh, I'm going to get this piece of art and I like it, right? But what you and others in the art world have taught me is that this came, like I said, I keep going back to, this has a meaning in it. Like who would have known, right? You're a bird person, and then you know, when you want to get something, you think animals are funny, you know, like all that comes through in that piece. But when you get it, you know, if you didn't know the story, I think there's a story behind it now that a lot of art that I will be asking instead of just looking at it for surface. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, and I've also learned that when I get art, I'm going to get it from people like yourself, as opposed to big, I hope nobody's going to be mad at me, but I feel like the local people that I know, you know, I can hear the story behind it, as opposed to going in a store and not knowing the story behind it. So that's been kind of a new commitment I've made. We're remodeling, and I think about, you know, when I look at your stuff and Tony's stuff, and think about when I get a piece, it's going to be something from someone I know.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love giving people my artwork. I love that when they find something and they see themselves in it, or they know that it's special because they know I'm only making one of them. It's a one of a kind for them.
Right.
And then since I've only been on Instagram for a year, but since being on Instagram, following a ton of artists, and I feel the same way. Like every time I see somebody's new art, I'm like, oh man, I see the story behind that. It feels so special. Like as soon as I save up enough money, I want to buy that piece.
How have you only been on Instagram for a year?
I had no social media before I started my business, and I
Wow.
had to figure out how to do it for the business.
Wow. I thought I was late to the party, girl. I thought I was late to the party, honey. So, but I guess it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter when you have, I mean, I say that, but it doesn't matter when you have a story, right? When you create it, people are going to come.
I hope so. Yeah, that's
They are.
that's the journey now.
They are coming. They are, learning, and they are seeing, like I said, what you have, out there. What does the future hold?
Oh, yeah, that is a very open question. In the immediate future, I'm pretty excited. I talked about the virtual pop-up that we did before, but in 2 weeks, I have my first in-person pop-up.
Oh,
Because yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky during this last year that, nobody I know has died from COVID. I still have my job, but it's still like COVID has impacted everything. So it's been strange to start a business and a year in only now be able to sell art to people face to face. So I'm really excited to be able to just see people's reactions and actually, yeah, see other humans looking at my art.
right.
But yeah, long term, it's a matter of just kind of saving up enough money to build myself a proper studio with a kiln and everything, and actually get the whole thing going. But that's a 10-year goal.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. I think that you started off with a good mission, and you have a great story. You have amazing talent, and so you'll get there. And I think just like you, even if you have like to yourself to the year ago or years ago when you said I'm going to quit and have no plan, you're starting to build that plan, right? So it's gonna all come together for you, and we can't wait to see. We've been so overwhelmed with the show and it's been so positive, but I kind of want to do where are they now? So I want to have people back, in a year or so from now. So I hope that, you'll come back and share with us kind of what next steps, have transpired for you over the next year. And so, because like I said, I just applaud you for what you're doing. I applaud you for your stance on, just being bold, and you're so nice.
Oh, thank you.
Super, super nice. So I just want to applaud you for standing on what you believe and letting your art stand for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I
And for
think
all
that's
of
a great
us.
idea. I would love to come back in a year.
I think what you're doing stands for a lot of us. A lot of us are, we have things we need to know about our generations. We need to know about what we need to know our stories. We need to be okay with them. We need to stand for things like you said you donated some of your pieces to Black Lives Matter, or different things that are going on in the world. So if we could find something that we're passionate about that makes a statement that stands for something that's not, mean or mean spirited, but yet nice and getting our point across, I think that's how we're supposed to serve others. That's just my opinion. So I think what you're doing is serving others with your passion and your purpose. And I love people that come on the show and share what their passion and their purpose are with the world. And that's what this show is about, because there's so many things and reasons to be unpositive, that people have created. And I want people on this show who are creating positivity, who are showing love, who are giving love. And, I think art is a wonderful way to do that. And sharing your story through art is a great way to do that.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my story.
So make sure you go to Rosie's Instagram. It's amazing, amazing. Your work is amazing. I keep telling you. I'm gonna go there right after this, actually, because I keep an eye. I keep an eye. Like I said, we're remodeling, so there's gonna be something of yours here. Just got to figure out what. So I appreciate it. Everybody, this is Just Like You, Everyday People, Amazing Stories. We are back here next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. I had to think about that. Next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you have a story, and we know you do, please make sure you get in contact with me. If you have a friend, a family member, anybody who has a story, I would love to have them on the show. This show, like I was saying to Rosie, it's about positivity. It's about love. It's about sharing your story, and everybody's got one. And no story is too big. No story is too small. And yes, you can come on here and curse if you'd like to. Thank you, Rosie. I will call you in just a second. I'm going to tag you in all this, and I'm going to give you a follow-up call in just a second.
Great. Thank you, Taryn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.